Welcome agents to another Division 2 video. My name is Patrick Wolf and this is going to be a guide. I want to compare two marksman rifles, the Mantis and the White Death. Now these are two of the best marksman rifles in the game in my opinion. Remember, all my build videos, guide videos, anything like that is through my opinion and my various large amounts of testing. So it's up to you to decide whether or not you believe me or not. Trust me though guys, this video is going to answer a lot of your questions. Which gun is better? Which one should I use in what situation? Just keep in mind that every single build I make, every single tutorial and guide and my opinion, which one is better, which one is this, you should always use what you prefer and what suits your playstyle. Never just copy things in this game, otherwise that's how you can fail. So let's go over both of the weapons first. Then once we've done that, we're going to actually go in the testing range, see which ones do which damage in what situation, what talents should you run on the White Death, seeing as though you can change the talent. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to a main mission because there are some mechanics that you cannot replicate in the firing range. So first and foremost, let's go over the two weapons here. So I have got the Mantis and the White Death. Now actually before we do that, let's go over the build I'm using. Now to be honest guys, these days you should not really use glass cannon. I have decided to use it. This is perfect glass cannon because I'm not going to be sweating through a mission. I just want to give me stable and always the same kind of readings when I swap weapons. If I use focus, the damage goes up and down depending on how long I aim in for. If I use headhunter, it depends how many headshots I've hit. This will give me consistency in my damage numbers. It'll just amplify my damage by 30%. I wouldn't really recommend using this. Headhunter is very good. Now with headhunter, I need to just quickly state this. If you have 6 reds on your build and you're using a marksman rifle, your build is not correct at all. You need to have blues and be tanky because headhunter has a certain cap. So I actually explained this in one of my rifle videos that I made. I will link in the description. Make sure you go look at that because a lot of people are using headhunter incorrectly. So let's go over this quickly. So you know why I'm using glass cannon. Vigilance is a no-brainer, and we've got 2 Aroldes. That's because I'm getting 15% headshot damage and marksman rifle damage. It's very, very nice. I see a lot of people use the named mask, which is really, really nice. You get the 20% headshot damage, but it gives you pistol damage. So it's better to use 2 Aroldi and 3 of these aces and 8s. So this gives us headshot damage and marksman, same as Aroldi, which is marksman rifle damage and headshot damage. And then we've got the one piece Providence Defense, which gives us extra headshot damage. I know this is not about the guns, but I just wanted to showcase this a little bit so you guys get an idea. All my mod slots are filled with headshot damage. Let's go over both of the weapons. So we've got the Mantis, which has got pretty cool camo. I like the look of it. Let's have a look at the mod slots quickly. So we've got 40% headshot damage, which is very, very nice. Stability 10%. Then for the barrel, 5% crit chance, and then 10% reload speed. This gun is very, very strong, and you can acquire it in the season pass, or you can just get it from opening caches, exotic caches. Make sure to do your Shade Tech requisition cache that is unlocked every Tuesday. So this gun has headshot damage max 111%, 14% marksman rifle damage max, and 10% damage to targets out of cover, which is actually very, very nice. In plain sight, your scoped view displays additional information about enemies not targeting you. So I'm going to go in the firing range and in the mission to explain exactly what you need to do to get the most out of this weapon. Headshots and weak point damage against enemies not targeting you. Not targeting you. So there's a way of, it shows you whether or not the enemies are targeting you. The reticle over their heads will be red if they are targeting you. If they are not, it'll be orange. So headshots and weak point damage against enemies not targeting you, amplified by 50%. So you get 50% more damage when the enemy is not targeting you. You might be thinking, well, in a fight, they'll be targeting you. But here's where it gets interesting. Headshot kills reset the cooldown of the decoy skill. This bonus will wait until the decoy goes on cooldown if currently active. So I will show you exactly why the decoy is a game changer and makes this gun so incredibly powerful. But we'll do that in a second. So let's have a look and see right here the comparison between the two, and then we can explain the White Death. So if I just push this here, you can actually compare 2 weapons. So if we look at the White Death, I love this. This is the new camo that came in with it. It's very, very nice in TU10. So the only issue that we have here is that we have magazine size instead of damage to targets out of cover. Now this gun isn't the easiest to find around. You can actually purchase it sometimes from Cassie Mendoza, but I do have the exact same M44 carbine, which is what it's based off of, with damage to targets out of cover, which we can also compare, so we can get an accurate, as accurate as possible reading as we can get. So I've got Ranger, which is the best way to get damage. Now this is situational, but it is the best way to get damage. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure the targets are quite far away. So amplifies weapon damage by 2% for every 5 meters you are away from the target. So this is very important, because obviously you want to be quite far from the targets, but you will lose damage. So remember, it is a little bit situational, but I feel like obviously this is the best talent to use, so we have to just leave it in there. So if we look at the comparison between the two, clearly we've got 981k base, 772k base. So you're probably wondering, you're thinking, the White Death seems to have quite a significantly higher base damage, and that's true, but that's also false in the same way. So I'm going to show you why the Mantis gives us a lot more damage, even at range. So let's have a look further down. The headshot damage is mind-blowing. We get 130%. That's the whole reason why the White Death is so potent. We get that beautiful 137% headshot damage, and the mod slot, which I'm going to showcase right now, which gives us 5% more than the Mantis. So we've kind of, I've shown you exactly the differences between the two. Let's go and test and see which one works in what situation, because it's actually quite strange. I think a lot of people might learn a few things. So we have got 40% headshot damage from the mod that's currently on the White Death. So if we go to the White Death here and we look at the mod, it is actually 45%. So 40 to 45, which is very nice. I've got some accuracy there, and then weapon damage 5%, stiff integrated spring. So let's have a look here at the firing range and let's do some testing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this onto heroic right there. Sometimes it bugs out, it still says challenging, but that's my will because I was doing the manhunt in that setting. So we're actually going to come over here and make sure that we've got quite a decent amount of damage. To be honest, I'm going to keep it at 35 meters. I feel like that's fair. And we're just going to put it on veteran. We're just going to be doing some testing with the damage numbers. Let's try the Mantis first. So it is important to note that these enemies, do you see the orange glow? That means obviously these are cardboard cutouts, but it's important to note that because they are not aggroing us, so we will not lose damage. So as we can see now, the Mantis is hitting 8.6 million on the blue. So that's 8.6 million. Let's bring out the White Death. That is 8.1 million. So we are getting more damage with the Mantis, even though the numbers are less. With the White Death, sorry, the Mantis has lower base damage, but we're getting higher numbers with the Mantis. So that's 8.6 mil, and then the White Death is getting 8.1 mil. So if we actually increase the range, we should be getting quite a significantly more damage than 8.1. So that's 8.2. I mean, that is quite a good increase, but still not as good as the Mantis. So as you can see, the damage goes up quite significantly. So let's go into an actual mission, because this is where it gets quite tricky. Okay, so I am here at Federal Emergency Bunker. It's a nice mission because all the enemies are staggered pretty close together, so we can get quick findings by doing some headshots. It'll be on heroic mode. I want to quickly showcase this to you guys, how important using the decoy with the Mantis is. And this is going to be one of our conclusions. If you're using the Mantis, you have to use the decoy, otherwise your numbers are going to be way less than the White Death. So let's have a look and see quickly what this mission brings up. What are we going to find here? So I'm going to leave the numbers open right there. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you right here. So as you can see, there is an orange ring around the enemy's heads. That means that they are not aggro towards us and they cannot actually see us. So what we're going to see here is that we're going to do 8.6 million damage. Okay, so remember that 8.6 million, 4.5. It is 50% less around about there. That was 5 million. So we have got a significantly less damage than before. And that's because the enemies, it's about 6 mil now, but that was a crit. 4.1. So it is way less than the initial 8.2 that we were getting previously. 4.1. But now when we use the decoy, watch how the reticle changes to orange. They are now targeting the reticle, and we are back to the 7.88 million damage because the 50% increase is now proccing. So as soon as you throw the decoy down, you can see he is aiming at the decoy, so the aggro isn't on me, and I get back to that initial 8.6 million damage. Now this NPC, he is aggroed, So he will actually do the damage to me. So you can see 4.5, 4.5. And then because the Mantis resets the decoy, I can throw it back out again. The aggro gets removed from me and the NPC shoots my decoy and I get back to the 8mm from 4.5 to 7.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset the mission. Now we're going to test the White Death. Let's see what kind of numbers we'll get. Now remember, we're going to disregard the 5 million damage from the Mantis, because obviously if you use the Mantis, you would be utilizing the decoy as to keep the aggro off of you, so you could do that 8.7, 8.8 million damage that we're doing with the Mantis. Let's see what the White Death could get. Now we're going to try to stay as far away as possible as to proc the Ranger talent, just to give it a fair fight. So that's about 8.5 million there. It is still like 400k less than the Mantis. That's 6.3, that's way less. That's 6.7, still quite less. Now if we get a crit, it should hit about 9mm maybe, depending on the crit damage of the build obviously. That's just under 8mm, that's 800k less than the Mantis, 6.5mm. That is 6.4mm there. That is 8.2. That is still about 600, 700k less than the Mantis, even though the White Death has higher base damage. So that's quite interesting. So let's travel back to the base, and I can quickly showcase the other variant of the White Death, just to say, well, we don't have damage to targets out of cover, so we can dispel that, because the White Death actually gives us a lot more headshot damage, so it kind of outweighs it. So what have we found so far? What we can say is that the Mantis, even though it's got a lower base damage, the utility of having the decoy and the extra 50% damage means we have not only more damage, but we know when the enemies are aggroed on us. That gives us even more utility to know when we can actually fire our weapon so we don't get shot, especially if you do want to use glass cannon. So I find that to be very, very good. Whereas the White Death, you are getting consistent damage, even though it's just under 1 million less. You can get consistent damage all the time without having to worry about the decoy. But I feel like the decoy mechanic is pretty useful, especially using a sniper build, so you can take the aggro off of you, but it's up to you to gauge whether or not which one suits you the most. Let's go and have a look and see what we can compare the two together. So I've got the White Death here with Ranger. Let's have a look. I should have it on me. Classic M44 carbine, which is based off the same model. This has got maxed out damage targets out of cover, so I feel like this is going to be a great comparison. So if we look at the two, let's see what kind of numbers we can actually obtain. So what I need to do here is actually change the camo on this one. This is the classic M44. Let's take the skin off so we don't get confused. This is the new weapon here. Let's put it on 45 meters. Let's have a look and see what kind of numbers we can be hitting here. So we're going to go with this one first. 8.6 mil on blue. White Death 8.2. So it seems as though we are actually getting more damage from the normal one with the damage to targets out of cover. So that's 8.2 again, and then with the blue 8.6. Yeah, 8.6 with the normal one. So that's quite funny, isn't it, guys? You wouldn't think that. If you compare the two and you have a look at the difference. So we've got 137 headshot damage compared to 111, but damage to targets out of cover is so good. Now it is important to note that I do have a significantly more marksman rifle damage, so the findings are not going to be accurate with this test. It's just a comparison. So you need to go and you need to say to yourself, well, let me have a look. Let me see how good my M44 is. I mean, chances are you won't have one this good. It's literally almost god roll. I just needed one more percentage on this. So we've got 12% marksman, which is less, but the headshot damage you would think would outweigh it. But damage to targets out of cover is so strong, and it shows. We're getting, how much more damage was that? 8.2, 8.6. So it's like 300k, 400k difference, which is a lot, considering they're pretty much the same weapon. So from my findings so far, I can say, well, depending on what kind of weapon you have, M44 or White Death, which one is better? You need to go and you need to test it yourself to decide whether or not which one is going to be better for you. And if you compare the White Death or the M44 in my case to the Mantis, what would I say? I personally think the Mantis is a better weapon. Why? Because we are not only hitting a bit more damage, it's quicker to fire, the reload speed's really good, the decoy is always up, because the decoy has a pretty high cooldown in a match or in a mission. It's about 12 to 15 seconds, somewhere along there. You know, having a decoy always up because of this talent means that you can always have the aggro off of you, and it just helps a sniper. I think it's a great talent. I personally will always prefer to use the Mantis, and it has the damage to targets out of cover, which is quite funny because that's the whole premise of the difference between the M44 and the White Death. So if we look at the M44 and the Mantis, we can say, well, if I have a look here and I do this again with these two weapons just to kind of put you guys at ease, it's 8.4. So the Mantis is hitting slightly less than the M44, but I mean, it's 200k difference. So I think this is an important thing to note. Keep this in mind, guys. These numbers are not going to be the same for you. 19% of the time, the Mantis will hit harder than your M44 unless you have a really, really good one. So that's why I'm so glad I could actually have one that with high damage targets out of cover. That's how important this attribute is, and that's why the Mantis needed this, and it shows. So make sure to go and test it for yourself. But seeing as though the classic M44 does a little bit more damage than my Mantis, and remember that it is situational. If I'm closer to the NPCs, I will do a bit less. If they're further, a bit more. But I think we've showcased this pretty well. I think you can get an understanding. Even though the damage is a bit higher, I personally feel like the Mantis has better utility and it suits the sniper's playstyle. So let me know what you think in the comments. Which one are you going to be using? Do you have an M44 as good as mine? And with that being said, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, yeah, and I'll be seeing everybody in the next video. Peace out, agents.